We do it.
Keep it PG, Jose,
They
from
had
now on.
night guys and everything. They
Keep
got
it PG, no problem. No problem.
canned one and then they all.
Oh.
Teacher over there said it's the cleanest I've ever seen
Oh.
it. The teachers that are putting in extra time are
Uh-huh.
really getting after it.
Nice. Why are you driving the corporate?
No, I haven't put the stickers on the new truck yet.
Oh, it's new stickers.
The cars always had them, but I bought a new pickup.
Same thing, no.
I have not heard.
I figured it was just status quo.
I went with a white pickup this time. It's a little easier to keep clean. And then I hauled bales off the pasture and it was covered in mud.
Can't wait.
Now,
So you need it. I don't know, you told me.
just need a regular weather pattern, not drought and monsoon and drought.
Well, I feel like you don't.
No. Tan or pewter or whatever that color. You don't see any dirt on my own Camino. Stays. Clean.
Mile, minute.
Kids drive that around the yard non-stop. Ranger bikes. They got little feet somehow. Somebody will come in and gets run every day. The other day, there was a bottle cap up to the bumper and said, don't you be dragging that cap.
Oh, you.
Well, he was fighting too hard, so we just gave him a little pull. 200-pound cap behind it, El Camino. He learned to walk.
Oh, very nice, yeah.
The Rotary Car Show, I guess, and so if somebody has an El Camino, they're gonna put the
Entry
the
form.
wrap gifts for the car show or something. Yeah. Briefly, they talked about moving Santa's house or something.
My daughters, my two oldest daughters have photography, $20 outfit challenge. Also, they each got markets there, bottle caps, chicken. Enough. Got bottle cap. Photography.
I texted him, and I texted.
That's my favorite.
You're not, yeah.
Yeah, she, when I tell her to me, she is, it was extended dog was second or something.
No, because she was off her Wednesday. Mine on Monday, and I should that today, and I don't want to be bugging her, you know what I mean?
She said we had.
So guilty, so I just.
Because she has been sent. She brought you first. Oh, I haven't signed mine yet.
Trouble, my wife discovered those $7 today downtown. They got a loan.
No, I didn't sign it.
If you go to your phone, yeah, I talked to you, but yeah, if you go to your phone and like.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The wise man.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, you do? Yeah, there's like a edit you can. You don't talk. Like that.
It's sent it to me on fax and then
Yeah.
There's a new ice cream shop too, Dean Treats or something.
Yeah, that one's around the corner,
Okay.
right? Yeah, that's supposed to be very, very. It is 5:30. We do have a forum. We'll call the meeting to order. Charles City Community School District Board of Education. Roll call.
President Dr. Schroep,
Here.
Vice President Nader, absent, Board Member Fox. Here. Board Member Cabrick.
Here.
And Board Member Mack.
Here.
Reading the mission, Catherine Fox.
Our mission to challenge all students to achieve their full potential through engaging, responsive educational experiences that inspire innovation, critical thinking, and collaboration. Our vision to develop learners who are competent, compassionate problem solvers. Our operating principles: information for one is information for all. No surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree, explain your thinking, and then commit.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. Welcome. Any visitor comments? ELL team.
Is it possible to take over the computer or no?
Yeah, just send me selection.
Okay. Do you need it? No. Okay. Hi, we're here to present about the ELL program in Charles City. ELL stands for English Language Learners. I'm Meg Nyberg. I'm one of the ELL teachers, and I work at Lincoln, the middle school and the high school.
I am Jenny Mose. I'm the other ELL teacher. I work at Washington IC and then at the middle school and high school. Our interpreters are Susie Smith, who is out of Washington and Lincoln, and then Nick Beaver, who is here at the high school and middle school.
This is just a map of the most recent US data in 2020 on ELL learners in the US. So this is the percentage of students in each state who are ELL students. Iowa is at 6.3% in 2020, but you can see that there are some darker states in the bottom, and toward us in Illinois, even Minnesota and Nebraska, Kansas have slightly higher numbers than Iowa does. This is from a Des Moines Register article in 2017, and that was the most recent Iowa specific data. Said over the past 25 years, the percentage of students learning English has grown far faster than their native English speaking peers, increasing 500% to 27,241 students during the 2015-2016 school year. And every county in Iowa has served ELL students. This is an image from that article in 1991. Floyd County is the yellow box, and you can see that we didn't have any ELL students in 91. And then in 2015, you can see the first map, there's about a third of the counties didn't have any ELL students. Here, there are about 3 counties who don't. And again, this was 10 years ago. So you can expect that those would be a lot larger now. ELL growth in the US, it's the fastest growing student population in the US. In 2020, an average of 10.3% of students were ELLs across the USA. And in 2025, the NEA is projecting that 25% of students will be ELL students, and that's an average across the US. So right now, Iowa lags behind the national average, which is 10.3%. We're at about 6.3%. And then Charles City schools lag behind the Iowa average at about 3.6% of our students being ELL students.
One of the populations we've really seen growing here at Charles City is our newcomers. So our newcomers are students who have moved to the US in the last 2 years and score a 1 or a 2 on their ALPA. The ALPA is the state required English proficiency assessment, and it tests them in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So a level 1 or 2 is those students that are just coming in, just starting to learn the basics. It's approximately 4 to 7 years for students to reach academic proficiency. Granted, every student's a little different. And then for students who are coming in with limited or interrupted education, this could increase to 7 to 10 years. Right now in Charles City, currently 3/5 of our newcomers fall into this category of very limited to no education in their native language. And these students are behind in grade level because they haven't had any previous schooling. This is kind of the look at it. And I have to grab my computer for this, sorry. So if you look at the start of 21-22 school year, we had no newcomers at that time, and there were a total of 30 students in the Charles City district receiving ELL services. So the end of last year, we had 57 students that received ELL services, and 29 of them were newcomers. So that's how much we've grown just in the last few years.
Where are they coming from?
Most of them are coming from Hispanic speaking countries. We do have a few Ukrainian families that have moved into the area. And then this kind of breaks down the newcomers by building. So the blue just shows the number of ELL students in each building, and then the dark blue represents the newcomers. So there's newcomers in all of our buildings across the district. So our current picture for the 23-24 school year, the year we just finished, 64 students were served across 5 buildings. 22 of those moved in throughout the year. 2 graduated and 3 moved out of district. 29 are newcomers. 15 of those started the school year with us, so 14 of them moved in. There are 5 different languages spoken currently. The majority is Spanish. So starting the year, we had 57 students. We've had 2 tests out. Looking at next school year, we're looking at 57 students still with us. 2 of them tested out. Approximately 11 incoming kindergarten students, just students that we have flagged for preschool with, according to their home language survey, that we'll have to screen. And then 2 other students just that we've heard were coming to the area. So 5 of these students are going to be considered newcomers. So we're estimating about 70 students for next year.
So if you have these kids here, and they mostly speak Spanish, what are the other languages just off the top of your head?
So it's Spanish, Ukrainian, Vietnamese,
Tagalog,
and
Urdu.
Urdu, thank you.
So are the lesser languages than Spanish, do they have any basic English knowledge?
They do
Depends
now.
on the students, but
Last year, we had some Ukrainian students come in that spoke no English, and we used a lot of Google Translate until they were at a level where they could start communicating better.
So your interpreters speak Spanish, or they speak more than one language?
one of ours is a native Spanish speaker, and the other one speaks Spanish and French. And then I also speak Spanish.
But as far as the other languages, you just use
No.
Google Translate for the other people?
So looking at when we do our certified enrollments in the fall, we can only count students for ELL for 5 years, and it can take 4 to 7 or 7 to 10 to acquire proficiency. So there's kind of a discrepancy there in what we can claim and where students really are. And then we're looking at students with IEPs and learning disabilities. We are not able to exempt them out of the testing areas. They have to test in all 4 domains every year. So most of those students will continue to get services throughout their whole education here.
So when you look at the certified enrollment numbers, those are not representative of all the students that we actually serve, because many of our students don't, especially those with big gaps in their schooling or no schooling, won't test out in 5 years, but they'll continue to require services. They just aren't marked on the certified enrollment.
Just for my interest, what does a day look like for a child that comes into the school with no English knowledge?
It's kind of on the building, so a lot of.
Start of Washington.
Washington looks a little different than it does here, because the littles are all receiving so much language and so much accommodations already. There's so many visuals and hands-on things with the littles that their they can stay in class a lot easier. They can watch their peers. Everything's modeled for them. They usually have pictures. So our little stay in the classroom, most of the time, other than getting pulled for services, Washington, I was at 3 days a week. So those kids all received 15 to 20 minutes, 3 days a week of direct ELL instruction. And then Susie was in there every afternoon with them for probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes as well.
In the classroom with them,
Yes.
interpreting?
Yes, yeah, and then she also like sent talks to parents and things like that, because our students who are coming to us that are not literate, most of the time their parents are not either, so sending a letter home doesn't help. They don't understand it, everything has to be communicated to them. When you get to like Lincoln Middle School, high school, then this, like our high school students who came to us with very limited schooling, then they come to see us. We did math with them, we did literacy with them. And then they got an ELL block with us because we're trying to fill in those gaps and get them caught up with their peers. So they receive a lot more service.
Do our surrounding districts serve ELL students? Are they required to, or is?
It is a state requirement, you have to serve your ELLs. I'm gonna back that up. It is required that there is somebody who serves them. Not like the school year we just finished, but the year before, I also provided services at Nashua because they only had one student. And they paid us to serve that student versus trying to hire a teacher.
I know New Hampton has a really high population as well. They have, I think, an ELL teacher in each of their buildings.
Where does the ELL funding come from? Is that general fund or
Title III funds.
what's that mean?
We have a separate fund. So basically each student that we count on our certified enrollment numbers for ELL, we get an additional fund for, kind of like for a special ed student, you get additional funding.
And earlier, when you said that students don't count, I mean, after they've been in so many years, they still have the label, you don't get a weight, you don't get the weighting, which is, I think you clarify that.
Yes,
So they're still getting service.
We
but-
still serve them, they're
Don't
still on our caseload, we can't count them on certified enrollment and get that additional funding for them. But they are still ELL students. And we still serve them.
So it parallels to special ed in many ways as far as special education services where you get extra weighting. And then, but after 5 years, then that weighting is discontinued. And you can also deficit spend in this area, similar to special education.
Right, like our certified enrollment at the beginning of the year was very different. We had 22 students move in, but if they move in after that October count date, we're serving them all year, but they're not counted on our enrollment until the next October. This is our growth from our ELPA testing. So we had 25% of our students move up a level in 2 areas. So reading, writing, speaking, and listening. In 2 of those areas, they moved up a level. We had 28% move up a level in 1 area, and then we had 47% who did not move levels. So the students can still grow without moving levels. It's a band to stay in, so they may see growth within the band but not move out of it. But this is something that we would expect with such a huge population of newcomers. So if you go to the next slide, 29% of our students who grew moved up by more than 1 level, which is awesome. Of the 25 students who did not move a level, 19 had less than 1 year of schooling and ELL services before we were assessing them. So there are students who moved in throughout the year with limited or interrupted schooling. So again, them not moving a level is what we would expect. 13 of the students who did not grow are identified as S-Life students, those ones with the limited or interrupted formal education. And then 20% of our S-Life students showed growth.
So this is something that we get from the AEA. It is just a recommendation. One of the differences between special ed and ELL is there is required minutes for special ed depending on their levels. There is no requirement in ELL, but this is kind of what is suggested. So like our emerging students, which would be the students that we're considering our newcomers, they recommend 1 to 2 periods daily. And then it's just kind of goes down to are proficient students just as they need support. So currently what this looks like is Megan and I teach the ELL classes and we group them by age or their ability. We provide basic skills classes for limited and interrupted. So as I said before, there's newcomers that come to us. We're teaching them the literacy and the math skills to try to get them to be able to enter with their peers. We screen and assess students using the state test, the ALPA 21. And then we create individualized learning plans for all of our students based on their levels and where they're at. We kind of give appropriate accommodations to make being in the class easier for them. A lot of that is visuals, shortening it down to like 5 or 10 of the basic vocabulary words instead of like 25, which can be very overwhelming. Just formats of tests. When you have essays, that's really hard when you're just learning to read and write in the language. So making it more multiple choice or being able to show you what they know versus writing it down. We work with the teachers in all the buildings and subject areas to modify classwork and assessments according to these ILPs that we do. And then we also do provide homework support and check-ins. So when the students come, they come to us during advisory, they can come to us before or after school. If they don't understand something, we try to work with them or check in with the teachers to see how we can change that. We communicate with the families about grades, behavior schedules, health conferences. Most of the time, if principals, nurses, teachers need to contact parents, they reach out to us, and Nick, Susie, or Meg usually contacts the families since there is that language barrier at home as well. And both of us work in multiple buildings.
Our interpreters do more than just interpret. They are really present with the students throughout their day. So they provide direct in-class support and translations for students in core classes. They assist students with understanding the assignments and concepts in and out of class. They help the teachers understand what the students are able to do and kind of understand how to modify things based on their ILPs. They communicate with the families. Nurses, again, need to call home, or there are certain events, or teachers need to communicate home and then answer questions that the families have. They're very hands-on and really involved and awesome resources for all of the families that we have. And they each work at 2 buildings daily, so middle school, high school, or Lincoln, Washington.
This was just a little thing we found. And it says ELs continue to experience significant gaps in both achievement and in opportunities in our schools compared to their non-EL peers. ELs are underrepresented and gifted in talented programming, extracurricular activities, and high-level courses. They're often over or under-identified in special education. So when you look at them, a lot of times they're identified as special ed because they're not able to read and write right away. And it's just like lack of exposure, lack of schooling, and not necessarily a disability. Or oftentimes they're not identified because we look at them and we're like, oh, they're an L. That's what the problem is. With effective research-based supports and access to excellent educators, ELs are capable of the same high level of learning as native English speakers.
So our goals for our program moving forward, working on creating a graduation path for our S-Life students, especially those who are coming in with no credits or records. So they might come to the country and not have any transcripts or records from their schooling. How can we create a better path for them to be able to graduate on time or be able to use what they know to test into classes and so on. Continued partnering with teachers for support and content classes. Next year with the early outs, we're looking forward to being able to get into more PLC and team and department meetings with teachers to give them supports, because our interpreters can't be everywhere at once and we can't be everywhere at once. So really helping the teachers to understand what they can do in class to support their students. Continuing to work on closing academic and opportunity gaps that Jenny just talked about. And then helping our students get more involved in extracurricular activities or higher level classes as they advance. Any questions for us?
Who's responsible? You said there's just Title III funding that some of the kids we get. How do you get that? Somebody has to keep them.
Jen Schilling oversees our department.
Who keeps track of what needs to be kept track of, and are we keeping track of what we need to keep track of? And there's some issues with special ed we've done. Do you guys keep track of anything? Do you have to?
Like as far as the certified enrollment?
Whatever we need to get what we deserve as far as state funding is concerned.
Yeah.
Who keeps track of what needs?
Yeah, we have a certified enrollment document that we update every year, and then Jen looks at that and sends it to us, and we sign off on it, and she signs off on it. It goes to.
Is that just a one time a year thing, or is there stuff
Yep.
we keep track of month by month, or?
We have like our running rosters, but the certified enrollment, we just do every October with the regular enrollment.
So all the money that we get throughout the entire year, it's just based off of that?
Yeah.
And the rest of the money is just general funds?
General fund.
So the ones who come in after October, we get to count them for next year as.
I guess.
As long as they're here next October.
Yeah. If somebody comes after and leaves before.
Right, that's why I'm,
Yeah.
Always a year.
if there's a retroactive policy that they pay for the kids that were here that we didn't serve, or.
No, it's just based on the
Who was
previous,
there?
same with special ed, you just like
Okay.
get whatever you get on October based on whatever's there. Then you may come in ahead the following year, you may not, just depending on who's in it.
I guess I'd like to, visit more with you too, about, have you done much with SIOP as far as, getting you the trainer level so that you can then help teachers to have that knowledge to,
I have my instructional coaching certification, but we haven't done anything.
okay, because I guess a lot of like Sioux City,
Yeah.
40% English
Yeah.
language learners and 5,000-6,000 kids, and we're reclassifying, and so we end up doing a lot with it's sheltered instruction observation
Yeah.
protocol, SIOP. I'm sure you're familiar, but the Cal Institute is one of the leading groups that does that training, and so then if we get that capacity of a few people to help teachers in the classroom, you can kind of stretch that, and especially when you get further up from elementary, it's not the print rich, media rich, where kids can see pictures and identify with pictures, and so the SIOP is even more important as they get a little older, I think, in my opinion, so.
And that's one of the things we've tried to do. Before Meg and I, it was just Kathy who did the ELL program for 27 years. And then there's two of us. And then last year we started off with just me, and Meg joined back in January because our numbers continued to grow. So as we started the year with both of us, our hope is to be more involved and be able to support the teachers more. Last year was kind of just trying to tread water and stay above for the first half of the year.
Right, I found just even having the multiple learning targets for elementary, where it's the content language and that really helps a lot with the SIOP work, so maybe we should talk offline about things down the road here, so.
The home native language, is what they're exposed to most of the day. So is there anything that the community has that helps parents?
NIAG did just start this summer offering free ELL classes, and we let all of our parents know about it, and things like that. And our interpreters are great resources for our parents and helping them find what they need within the community.
There are great things about that class, too, by the way, there's a lot of families involved.
And it was one that I have.
Than I have one. And the gal who teaches, it's a friend of mine, she said it is the most pleasant class to teach, everybody wants to be there, everybody wants to learn. She said it's just a wonderful situation, great thing.
Thank you for serving our students.
Number 7. Yeah,
So before we vote on this, or get a comment, I just want to point out the vendor agreement for St. John, both of them have last year's dates on.
Oh, they do, okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so
I'll get
just-
it fixed. Yep.
No, that you want back to change that.
Yep, I'll get it fixed.
thank you, Josh.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything to say or a motion to be made?
I reviewed the bills, everything looks fine, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the slightly amended agenda as presented.
I'll second.
And there should be no discussion, so all in favor to approve. Say aye. Aye. Opposed. Committee reports, I don't believe there were any committees. No, 29. Directors, administrator, director reports, anybody in that category? Nope. Superintendent.
real brief because, last week was a short week. I took a few days for holiday and then, many of the teachers and staff were out. I was very fortunate to, have a chance to, work with the radio station this morning and do a nice interview with the radio station, later, and it went really well. I had a good conversation. And, but then, later this week, I'll be down at SAI, learning with the new Superintendent's Institute that they do. And so I'm getting a good network of resources at the new Superintendent's Institute. I guess, and then the update from a couple weeks ago about the last chance to see some of the girls softball at home this week on their great run that they've been having. So if anybody wants to come out Wednesday and watch us beat up on Decorah one last time, so no comments.
Yeah. Thank you. New business, bus routes, Barry.
Well, coming back tonight from our conversation at the last board meeting and came with a little plan that hopefully will get a better liking for some, especially the PK through fourth grade. I think is what we really heard at the meeting when Brian and I talked, and then Sam and I sat down and looked at things and thought what we could do yet with what we have for staff. So if you read through this, we're offering drop-off locations, pick-up locations for PK through fourth, which is Lincoln and Washington students. Locations to be at the Charles City school buildings. And then what we did is we put our map that you had last time. We tried to get into quadrants. So the blue is all the schools. The red is on each side of Main Street on the south side of town, and then back up into all the north, like North Johnson, North Jackson, and all that at one pickup space.
What about the Main Street bridge problem gonna do to your?
Bridge problems won't affect us at all. We don't go down Main Street with the buses. We go over Brainy. So they won't affect us, and hopefully it's not close to all. But we'll see. I see they have the good truck out and we're looking at it today. So anyway, so from what I heard last time was we wanted something more for the younger students. With doing that, we'll be able to keep our 12 morning and afternoon bus drivers because we have 6 route buses. We have 2 special ed buses. We have Common 3, which is what we're talking about there. And then we have 3 out of town bus routes also. They go to Mason City, Pinecrest, Lead and Waverly, and River Hills in Waterloo. So that's 12 staff that we have running morning and afternoon. Then we heard a little bit about communication also. So I look back at some of the communication that already went out and what we're going to go out with. Some communication that's happened in the past on March, look at the exact date. March 8th, there was a presentation done on the radio station by our past superintendent that was very specific about, more in-town shuttles and was spelled out. We listened to it again just to make sure we didn't miss anything, but it was spelled out and already communicated that the in-town shuttles were not going to be provided anymore and just between the buildings because of the 2 mile, 3 mile and with the budget issues that we're having. So that communication went out, but that's not a big deal because if we're going to change it to this, we'll get more communication out. We're going to put, we gotta let Lisa know what our decision is tonight because she's putting all the packets together that go to all the parents. So there'll be a very detailed, so this is what it will look like. And this was the original one that we drew up that was going to go in there. So we'll have to make some changes. So it'll be very detailed on what we provide for transportation. And then on the second page, it's very detailed what each building has for routes. So that will be communication. We'll also, Brian's going to do some more communication when he's on the radio station and things like that, as he just talked about briefly. And then Brian also, I also met with Steve Deers the other day and why am I drawing a blank? Right here, Tammy Alphonse, sorry, Tammy, I work with her all the time, I can't believe I drew a blank. But anyway, we met with them and just talked about transportation in general. And what they have is 55 reserve spots in their taxis, but they are providing service this next year for 67 Charles City Community School District students. And that's above and beyond what she can hold, but she thinks she can make it work. So they're doing everything they can to help and provide also transportation. So in general, this will still have the cost savings impact that we proposed. What it will do is Comet 3, instead of being, probably a short, shuttle route, it'll be a little longer. What we might have to do is it's gonna start, tentatively, what we're thinking right now, it's gonna start at IC, because they get out before everyone else, do their drop off around the spots, then go to Washington. If the bus is full, they're gonna have to go do their drop off at spots, then go to Lincoln and do their drop off at spots. So I'll have to work with the principals about maybe some of the students being at the school building a little bit longer, but we won't know until we get all the people that are turning in. And it's also spelled out very detailed when you have to have your in-town shuttle students on our register, so we can make sure we have the bus pass and all that. So it's a very detailed list that will go out to our parents and students.
Yeah, like with the registration stuff.
Correct, yeah, and they get sent out, we will deliver them to the mail. Lisa's putting them together, she was putting them together on Friday when I was at work. She's got my information that needs to go in tomorrow then, so I told her I'd help her in the morning, which I'm not very good at packing envelopes, but I'll do all I can. And then, she takes off her vacation, so I think it's July, like 16th or something like that, those packets go out. So, and my staff delivers them to the mail office, so that's what we got.
So then, Jerry, if I'm hearing correctly, so that Comet 3 is gonna go to each of those buildings, do all those drop offs each time.
Correct.
So they'll be
If
busy.
it's not full, it'll
Yeah.
keep going to the building and picking up, but if it's full at a building, it'll have to go to the drop
So
off
that's kind of,
locations.
that's kind of nice too, then each of those, that Comet 3 will really just be serving peers, not littles and big, like, I mean,
Correct.
maybe at the end, but it's
Correct.
kind of keeping.
Yep, that's correct. So I'm hoping I met what everyone was sort of thinking, and there were some great emails coming back for it there. I had some great suggestions.
Yeah.
You have some great suggestions, so we sort of took those all and tried to make a working, something that would work for everyone. And it'll still work for us because I got some more bad news. Another bus driver just is gonna, haven't put in his resignation, but his wife got a job out of town and she's on the list that you're approving tonight. So that means he's leaving me too, and he's an AM and PM route driver, so another bus driver out the doors. But on a good note, we're hiring the staff, but gonna be 6 months till she gets her license, but she's gonna get her license. So that's on the board for approval tonight too. So.
So Jerry, how is it the same or different than it is this year for the routes in town? Are we losing any stops or gaining any stops?
Yes, because we probably had about 12 stops. We had numerous L spots at times, a
And then-
lot,
So that'll go from about 12 to whatever,
right?
5 or 6.
Right.
So about half.
Correct, correct. And we'll still have TLC as those stops, because they have a lot of students and we didn't feel we could probably not continue to do that one. So TLC is still gonna be part of it too.
And you're gonna try and have some of your rural buses catch a couple of them stops or no?
Nope. The only thing the rural buses will do, when they pick up at high school, middle school in the afternoon, they will pick up the students 5th through 12th that are gonna go to the other schools.
And Jerry, do we ever have anybody that wants to do a paid, where somebody's coming in and they wanna pay and ride that 2 miles? Cause somebody could pay, right? And if it works out that the bus is going by, minimal,
We've never done it in the past.
okay,
There's towns that do, anyone that's under 2 miles, they do have, it's sort of like a taxi service,
yeah,
but we have never had anyone. pay,
Okay.
And we've never asked for payment.
Sure.
So,
cause that was pretty common in Sioux City, if somebody was
Sure.
on the way in.
Mason City has that, Waterloo has that, but a lot of the smaller towns,
Oh, sure.
so.
Thank you.
Hoping that helps. So I guess we're just asking for your approval to make sure that we're okay with that, because that way we can get going, because until we got this finalized, that puts a lot of work on us, like towards the end to get all the routes going and get the students put in and our trip, that they split on off the buses and all that, so.
So essentially your rural bus that picks up will be a shuttle to a different spot.
Just
Get
to
onto
the
the
different
Comet
schools, they
3.
won't stop at any of like the
Right.
6 and Cedar or any of that, but they might have students that ride from the middle school, high school to like Washington. Okay,
I'm just thinking with a middle schooler and an elementary kid in different buildings,
Mhm.
if I was in town, I don't wanna have
That's
one kid
why,
dumped off and then wait a half hour for the other one. to
right,
come.
so that's why we did that, the route between the schools. That way, If you have 3 students, and we talked about that last time, I think, yeah, you weren't here, but we talked about that last time. If you have a student in Washington, Lincoln, and middle school, we knew we had to go between buildings because there's no way you can go to all 3 buildings and pick up. That way you can go to one of the buildings, they can get a bus pass to the other buildings, and the other 2 could go to that building for you.
Sounds like organized chaos. But
It
we know you
is.
handle it.
It's unbelievable. Sam puts in a ton of hours from now until school starts. It's just because of getting this organized. She runs it. That's what I told you last time. She is the glue for transportation, so I appreciate her.
Wow. I'll make a motion that the board approves the PK through 4 pickup and drop off locations.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Same sign. Motion passes. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Personnel report.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. June financials.
I have just a couple questions. Maybe I just don't quite understand this, but the actuals expenses versus budgeted expenses versus monthly expenses seem to have different numbers in them.
They will,
Okay.
because, we did a check run and the check run was in that. And so right now, your June expenditure, your June finances are not right at all. Because we have another check run coming up, they're gonna hit June's. So I will not do the last of the last until September 13th, until the CAR is done, auditors are done.
Okay.
So they will keep changing, but these are what I had as of, I closed the bank rec out on June 30th, July 1st.
Okay.
So they're gonna keep changing, so the expenditures for my, for the budget part, that sheet that has the colors on it.
Mhm.
I have projected out what I think it's going to be, that's just projection. So the numbers that are on your cash and that are on your expenditures right now, that was of June 30th. So we have all of this in there right now, it's not on those books yet, it's not on those reports yet, because it happened after the check was done. So it will happen, like, I can do it again in July to show you, but as you can see, there was 1.2 million coming out of the general fund again for bills this month. Some of it's gonna hit July, some of it's gonna hit June. We also had a $450,000 payroll, so we have $200,000 coming out of our bank account. That is going to take a significant hit. We also had over $1 million coming out of our other bank account, so I'll have the 2 million in there. So we don't get another property tax or state money till September. So we will be short a little bit, but yeah, so that one is what I projected out to see what the bills are going to be, just to kind of see where we're at, to see if I could keep it under budget too.
So 2 questions. One is, have you seen, have they, and I mean, I don't think this has happened, but have they mailed new property tax reports for this last fiscal year yet?
No, not yet.
And then the other question is, with us being in this situation, is there an opportunity for us to ask the auditor as property taxes come in to cut us a check once a week or whatever?
Probably not. Yeah, because it's just direct deposit when people pay.
So when people pay it on it, it comes in?
So it comes in September and then it trickles in each month, but the big one is in September and April.
Okay.
So, yeah. With the state funds too, they come in September. Yeah, but each month you get some from the state, but we don't have any more of the state money coming until September, so, yeah.
And that's common, the June piece not being resolved until end of August, September, that's common in other districts too.
Yeah, we don't have like July 15th is special ed milling. So that'll be huge for us. We have so many special ed kids that are out of the district. So, and again, it's gonna take another hit. So I will do July's and I will kind of redo June's to see where we're at, but it will be final numbers until September 15th. So.
I make a motion to approve the June financials.
Any further discussion? Motion made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Activity journal entries.
So in order for me to keep going forward in the CAR, I have to clear up these accounts and to make them positive. So that's what I'm asking for. The certified annual report, so every penny that comes in and out of this district, the state checks it. And if you have negative balances, you can't go to keep going through the process. And so this is one of our processes I have to get through before I can keep moving forward.
So is the athletic account negative
Yes,
by $24,000?
yes, yep. Not like the athletic account is, yeah, so like different funds, like if you go back and look at that spreadsheet that's attached here, some funds have a ton of money in them, but the athletic one is negative, yes, that we have to figure out.
So it looks like football, volleyball, softball have their own accounts, and then
Yep.
there's two athletic accounts.
Yep.
One is 4,300, that's negative, and one is 24,000, that's negative.
Yep.
But they have the same number, so I guess I'm just, what's the difference?
So we have to clear out, so the there was 28,000, that's a negative athletic fund,
Okay,
and we have to make that zero.
okay,
So I can't have any negative funds, since it's a fund balance, to move forward. Just like the general fund that were negative in part of the accounts, I have to get those cleared out, which we did a flex spending a while back, so I can get those cleared. So
Please be clear.
I can do journal entries, that's what you guys are approving.
just transfer money.
Yep, transfer money.
So-
Yep. So basically, I need you to transfer money from the general fund to pay it off, like we did last year.
How do they get so negative? Is it just we didn't put enough in them, or that people were coding things wrong?
I'm not coding things wrong, this is all general, this is all activities, so.
Yeah, I think there was a assumption that, different sources of income, whether it's fundraising or community partners, that would be higher. And then certainly there were things that we can tighten up next year as far as we need to have budgetary goals in all departments, not just athletics.
Sure. Yeah, it's just, we're spending, we're overspending, either we gotta figure out how to trim that or make the money up somewhere.
I totally agree. We have some good ideas.
Oh, great.
Where does the money for these athletic, for these funds come from? generally?
Gates, concessions, donations, booster clubs.
Yeah, so generally not tax dollars.
No, this is all, yep,
This is other.
this is all just sources, yep.
But we're offsetting with tax dollars.
Right.
And-
Yeah.
And to clarify too, to elaborate, commonly sometimes districts do donate for safety equipment once a year. And so, like in Sioux City, most of the high schools got $10,000 for safety equipment. A large portion of that was eaten up by football helmets, but other sports benefited too from that. So that's a common thing where people transfer from the general fund. This is a little more than that common level, so we need to definitely tighten that up.
So the total amount though that will be coming out of the general fund would be that 18,600. No, it's.
Yep, I have to do, yep. Mhm.
Does it get paid back then, like from the,
Last year, you guys transferred 38,000 from the general fund, so it's.
to the athletic fund?
Yeah. It's less this year,
Yeah.
yep,
We can make it better.
Yep.
Lot better.
yep.
Um, What do the funds start out at the beginning of the year?
So this one will start out at zero because there's none in it. And it started out at zero last year because you guys transferred in it. It just depends, where the balances are at the end of the year, so.
The coaches they have like a budget, like how does that work? How do they
This,
know how
this
much?
district is a little different than what I'm used to. What I'm used to is each, sporting event has their own fund. And then they knew their budget. This one, it just goes into the athletic fund and then it gets to fight it out for needs, I guess.
Would it be better to separate it by sport?
Appears that it kind of is,
It-
but
it
everybody
is.
pulls an expense report from the activity.
Yep, some of them are being coded, to all athletics and some of them are. So I'm kind of confused on what is getting coded there and what's not, so.
It would probably be easier if it was specific, sport specific, wouldn't it? So how do we go about doing that?
We would have to sit down with Dana, go over that a little bit, and then you can actually see what your counts, what each sport is bringing in, and taking out.
It appears that it's already broke down
It is broken down,
and
yep,
it's prepared to be that way,
yep,
but
yep,
we're basically handing the athletic credit card to anybody who needs.
Yeah, and
Instead
we're
of-
getting tighter on the ordering, which is where we're understanding that they have to get approval before they buy stuff. So, we're getting tighter on that, so.
It's really hard to look at it
Yep.
as everybody's got a beginning balance for the most part.
Mhm.
Yet the biggest expense comes out of something that doesn't have a beginning balance.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So unless somebody wants to contribute to that beginning balance,
Mhm.
they don't get to pull from that account.
Yep.
In some way,
Mhm.
unless we make a board decision
Yep.
that we're gonna start with a balance there, and it's.
Yep.
You have to
Yep.
get approval. I don't know how
Yeah.
we go about that.
I think regular accounting practices, working closely with those leaders, we can tighten this up a lot. So,
So we need a motion to. General fund transfer $18,660.25
Yep.
into the athletic fund.
Mhm.
If anyone is interested.
I'll make a motion to approve the interest journal entries in the general fund transfer as presented.
Motion made, seconded, any further discussion on transfer of funds? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign, motion passes. SAI contract.
So the SAI contract is something that we've had in place as a practice where we've had new administrators receive mentoring for $500 for each new administrator that's come into the district. With the exception of vice principals, they're mentored by their principals. But for principals, superintendents, department leaders, they receive a mentor through this contract. So I look back and for several years that's been in place. The state requires you to have a plan though. And if you don't have your own district plan, and I couldn't find one, they encourage you to sign this agreement, and that is, in effect, that is your plan. This takes the place of the requirement to have your own district plan. And so right on the website, when you sign up for one of these services, it says, by the way, this can be your plan and meet the state compliance, but you need to have it approved by your board. So that's what we're bringing forward, something that's already a practice that we've been doing, having mentors for district leaders, principals at all levels through school administrators of Iowa. And so it's an allowable way to meet that compliance of having a mentoring plan for those individuals.
That's good for 1 year.
So every year we would renew.
But I mean, like, does the mentor program last 1 year?
Right. They have a mentor. Oftentimes you develop a friendship or professional
But it's
relationship.
for-
Yes, formally for 1 year. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with SAI for an administrative mentoring and induction program.
Motion made and seconded to have approval of the SAI contract for mentoring for administrators, principals and superintendent. Any further discussion?
I do have one question. Is there any way you can use money from that PLC fund that had an abundance rather than the general fund?
Let's see, maybe teacher, you think a teacher leadership? and
Yeah, we
compensation
had a
fund?
fund that we had an abundance of,
Yep.
and we've been trying to get caught up.
We flex that out for salaries,
Okay,
but we get another coming in, so we could take.
in future, I just know
Yeah.
that's an area we've been.
Yeah.
we
And
should-
mentoring is allowable use of those dollars. Absolutely.
That would be.
Yeah.
But not just for teachers. Yes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just
that
for
was-
teachers.
If it applied to that situation, or not. It was the same as I asked for
Yeah.
bus drivers, if we can use some of that money to help certify their
Yep.
drivers.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign, motion passes. Renewal of character, strong, purposeful people. That is our social emotional learning package that I believe we're using that K through 12.
That's correct.
I have not heard any issues with that. Seems to be successful.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the character strong / purposeful people curriculum for K-12 students.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the character strong, purposeful people program. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion passes. Bass Bridge Renaissance and NWEA in parentheses. What is that?
These are two assessment programs. The state requires you to have certain assessments. These are in addition to that, because teachers believe it gives them a more diagnostic level. I believe it's the math component of Fast Bridge that's not free from the state. The reading and fluency component is free from the state. The math component, there's a small fee for. And then Northwest AEA, which is actually not in Sioux City. It's the one out of the Washington, I believe, Oregon, Washington area. They produce maps, the maps test assessment, which teachers believe give them a really nice diagnostic view. And that works for the kids in the upper grades. I believe middle school, upper elementary teachers are using that.
Is this something that Sioux City, this type of thing did?
This type of thing, yes, we did not have the maps assessment, but we did have assessments that we purchased to help.
That were similar to that?
Yeah, ours were tied into some of the computer-based programs too, like iReady or Alexia. So there was a program kids would practice on and then have an assessment link to that. So
Are you familiar with?
I am, yep, they're nationally used, yep.
And they do serve a purpose of giving us an idea of where our students fit into the bigger.
Yeah, absolutely, they're both local, like state and nationally
Mhm.
referenced as far as where kids should be at this point in time.
And they're tests we've been using.
That's correct, they're not new,
Yes.
teachers are familiar with them.
Is this, these amounts not unreasonable for what?
No, that's standard for those products.
I'll make a motion, the board approves the funding for the Fast Bridge and NWEA map screener.
One second.
Motion made and seconded to approve these. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, same sign, motion passes. Online curriculum renewal license for high school earth science course.
So this is just a continuation of an existing program they're using for earth science.
Something they do on online.
Right, but many of the curricular of the books and are being replaced by online resources more and more, and so.
So another thing I noticed, it says North Granville, ship to address on that invoice, we probably should just change it. I'd make a motion to approve the a digital license renewal for the high school science program.
Second.
The address change. Yeah. Motion made and seconded to approve the license for the high school earth science course. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. There were no policy reviews this last month. Any board comments? Anything anybody did, saw?
It's been really quiet, actually.
It's summertime.
Yeah,
Yeah. A lot of barbecues.
a lot of baseball.
We might have to have a special board meeting on the 17th. Quick,
Yeah, what was that for?
personnel. And some bills.
High school principal. Who will be available at that
Yes.
time. And then some bills that will need approval.
Yep, yep.
Okay. We will coordinate for time.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Yeah. 6:24.
You know?